WCLS in Whatcom County presents Library Stories, a podcast to open your eyes to all the ways your local public libraries matter. Join us as we reveal the power of sharing at the library. The book for this year's Read and Share is House Lessons, Renovating a Life, and the author is Erica Bauermeister, who's this book is a memoir. She's also known for her fiction. And the great thing is she lives in Port Townsend. Mm-hmm. She actually renovated a house in Port Townsend, and that's the focus of the book. But we were able to call her up and interview. And for an interview like that, it's maybe something that requires a little more finesse at interviewing than I have a style.
Yes, you do.
But for an interview like that, we thought we would choose another staff member to do the interview. So we chose Lisa Gresham, who is our collection services manager and who also will be interviewing Erica during the Read and Share events that are happening in September and October.
Hi, Erica. I'm Lisa Gresham. I'm going to be interviewing you about your book, House Lessons, as part of Whatcom County Library System's Read and Share program this fall. And I'm super excited that you took some time out of this beautiful day to meet with us ahead of time.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I'm happy to be here, and I'm excited to see people virtually in the fall.
Yeah, for readers that don't know, Read and Share is one of the programs that Whatcom County Library System participates in, where we invite everybody in the county to read the same book and discuss it. And so I'm wondering if you would just summarize for readers who may not be familiar with House Lessons already, what the book is about.
Sure. House Lessons is technically what we might call a memoir in essays, and there's sort of three strands to the book. One is the personal story of our renovation of a hoarder's house that we bought in Port Townsend back in 2001. And sort of both the renovation itself, but also the renovation of our family and our marriage that went along with that period of time. And then another strand is sort of the technical aspects of how we do renovations. And the third is a slightly more philosophical look at how the houses that we live in, how the designs of the houses that we live in affect who we are and who we can be.
For me, all three of those aspects are interesting, but I think it's likely to be a really provocative read for people because you can enjoy one aspect of those three and find the book a really compelling read. It's relatively short, which I think is good for people going into the fall. People tend to get busier. And so I thought it was a pretty quick read, but also really thought-provoking. And I loved some of the parts. I have to, full disclosure, before I moved here from Michigan, I renovated an 1874 farmhouse. So a lot of the things that you talked about were really familiar to me. And I have lots and lots of questions that I look forward to asking you in October.
Well, and I think one of the things that's fun about the book is that you can come at this book from the angle of someone who's a renovator or thinking about remodeling a house, but also if you're thinking about buying a house or gee, it's been a pandemic. You've been stuck inside your house for 18 months, and it looks like we might be stuck in there for a little while longer. So, how do we look at the houses that we currently own and consider some really low cost and fairly easy ways to change the houses we live in order to help ourselves become better people and live fuller lives?
Yeah, I think, and people have been ruminating on that during the pandemic. It's been something maybe we don't think about that much normally, but how do the spaces that we live in shape our lives in various ways, either for good or ways that we can improve them.
Well, and the interesting thing is, this all started in 2001. It took me 15 years to write the book, and who knew that it would come out right as the pandemic would start, in 2020, and suddenly become in some ways far more relevant than it ever would have been before.
That's so true. Yeah, interesting. One of the things that I was curious about is that I read somewhere that you mentioned that you didn't plan to write this book, but that you were able to do so later from journals that you kept during the renovation or restoration, or both, a little bit of both, I guess.
Yeah.
And it reminded me a little bit of how authors talk about fictional characters that they have in their minds, and then the character just takes a shape of its own, and they say, I just had to write this story because the character became so insistent in my imagination. And so I was wondering if the house, I was reflecting on how much the house really was such a beloved character to me after I finished reading the book. And I wondered if the house was that same sort of inspiration, that it really wanted its story told. Or if not, what was the inspiration to actually put it down on paper?
That is a great comment, and it is absolutely true. I mean, this house wanted us from the get-go. It wasn't for sale. Incredible, weird, magical things happened the whole way through the renovation. But it also, yeah, she wanted her story told. And I actually tried to write this book 4 different ways. I tried to sell it 4 different ways. And it wasn't until I took that last step, when I had that 15-year break from the events and got some maturity, got some perspective, got some interest in moving beyond just my story into how this would affect many other people, that the book really came into its own. And, I think it was after we moved here full time and were able to really live in the house that the book came alive. And so I think that's a really good point. This house wanted the book written.
Well, and as a reader, I've been thinking, I get to talk to Erica soon and kind of find out what happened to that character in a way that you always wish you could do with a fictional novel, but the character the life doesn't continue. And in this way, of course, your house's life has continued and we get to learn about it. So that's probably a good place to leave people wanting more, because when we come back in October, we'll get to find out more about what the life of your house is right now.
Well, and the other thing we'll get to do in October is do some before and after pictures too. So for those people who've been reading the book and wondering, God, what did it really look like? We're going to do that. So
I can't wait. I can't wait, because certainly some of the hoarder descriptions really kind of defied imagination. And so if there are any pictures of that before, I think people will be really interested in that.
There are. We try not to go too deep, but there definitely is the before and after, so that you get an idea, some inspiration for what's possible.
Oh, that's great. I can't wait. Well, in addition to the interview that we'll be doing on October 12th, I know that you're going to also do a book talk on October 14th. Mm-hmm. And then there's a memoir writing class planned called Jumpstart Your Memoir. That's over the weekend of October 16th and 17th. And I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about who that workshop is intended for and what the attendees will likely be doing.
Sure. So it's a 2-hour class, 2 hours on Saturday morning, 2 hours on Sunday morning. It's designed actually for a range of people. If you are someone who has been playing around with the idea of writing down your story or your family's story, and you just don't know how to get started, or you've been, putting together notes and bits and pieces for years and you're trying to figure out how to put them together. Or you've been working on it for 5 years and the thing just won't lift off the page, or you've gotten frustrated. So it's jumpstart, but a jumpstart can happen at many points along the process. And so when I teach it virtually, it's much less of a workshop and much more of a workout is what I would call it. There are lots of quick writing exercises and exploratory exercises that students get to do on their own. It's fairly fast-paced. We cover a lot of territory. It's just kind of like a workout for your brain to get you motivated and going. And 4 hours generally gets people pretty excited. I see lots of writing groups coming out of it, people who get together because they've seen other people online and want to continue the process. And when I've done it, we did it in Port Townsend for the community read, and it was fantastic. We had a great time.
Oh, that sounds really fun. I wasn't thinking that was the sort of thing that had my name on it, because I never really think of myself as wanting to be a writer, but that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, and the number of not writers that took the class was really great. It's also really appropriate for fiction writers, because we talk a lot about how do you develop character, how do you create a scene, how do you use your senses, and those are all skills that you need in both fiction and nonfiction writing.
That's great. Well, Erica, I'm just really wanting the summer to end so that we can talk again in October. Thank you for your time today, and I hope you will get out and be able to enjoy the rest of this beautiful afternoon.
Absolutely. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.